Okay, I'll share the screen without text. And Richard, did you have a chance to listen to the recording of the previous one?
I did, yes.
Okay, well, guys, if any questions, you may just throw them in. If not, we stopped or kind of were distracted by the scholium, which, well, I made us distracted, but perhaps now we just continue where we uh, left off the main text. It's do you see this hyperousiotitos? That was the word on which that scholium was commenting. Now, Richard, would you like to take to start this second part of the sentence, starting here? So uh, uh, maybe let's recap. Maybe let's start from the beginning, the stigar from here, if you don't mind.
Okay. So for to the unknowing, uh, which is above logos and mind and being itself, um, the unknowing of the superessentiality. And I think on the next page, the
Well, it depends how, remember how we take this, what follows hyper, right? Hyperlogon kanun. So whether we put this teeth as Lila has it or before the hyperosiotitos, right? But you took it the second way, right? As I heard you, Richard.
I guess I did, yeah.
Okay, that's good. I like it. Yeah, that's right. Okay, and continuing here.
The something knowledge is to be attributed. So in other words,
Uh, t t uh, um,
the super
super essential knowledge, right?
okay, the super essential knowledge is to be attributed to the unknowing, etc. Is that right?
Right. To the uh, to the unknowing, attributed or traced back. Remember, we
Oh, trace back, right? Yeah.
yes, the translation which Lila uh, makes in the same book. If you have the book, Adam has the book, but if you don't, sometimes he has very, I would say, fortunate translations. Right. So the ignorance. So the supra-essential knowledge uh, of the uh, of the supra-essential unknowing, right? I mean, sorry, the supra-essential knowledge. How it does it goes? Uh, of the ignorance which is above logos and mind and essence itself, the to the ignorance of superessentiality. Yeah. So the superessential knowledge is to be traced back to the ignorance of superessentiality, which ignorance is above logos and mind and essence itself. But now and it was it. You rightly translated it with impersonal construction, because if we don't know what follows, it then the best guess to translate it anatheteon, to translate it one must or one should, the suffix
Right.
one.
Right.
Right, but further, we probably would need to correct it because of here we have, okay, let's see what you do with the rest of the sentence.
Okay, so so far, uh okay.
Now, let's start with the participles. It would be helpful. Yes, because the word order is
So looking upwards, so far, epita anantes, like uphill, as the beam from the God ruled prophecies or whatever reveals itself, and to the higher beams with, okay, and I guess sustella menus is like, is that humbling? So humbling ourselves to the higher beams with uh caution concerning divine things and holiness.
right. So Frassini is a moderation best
Moderation.
yes. Mm, uh, well, this Sistellamanus has quite a few meanings which all actually fit, interestingly, here. So, but the main meaning is to contract, right? To it's used in, I don't know if English medical terminology it is used, systole and diastole, as this in when they measure your blood pressure.
Hmm,
Is this used? So
I don't know.
um, diastole is expansion, systole is contraction. So contracting is the first, so to say, physical meaning of the term. Uh, and but also, of course, humbling oneself or being humbled, because it can be taken as passive or active, and also even being clothed, which would be, of course, very metaphorical, clothed in or wrapped up
Hmm.
in yes. Uh, so what's interesting here is that uh, this particle there, uh, it is only Lila's addition here. It is in some manuscripts, you see here in the apparatus,
Hmm.
but Zuhla and the other edition doesn't have it. And I just wanted to illustrate, it's one of the, I think, advances which Lila made in his edition, that, for instance, this, I think, makes much more sense because this is Zuchla's edition. You see, there's no there here. And people before before Lila had been translating it without there, but without there, uh, this clause beginning with pros would be supposedly elaborating on the previous, on ananevondas, which doesn't make really much sense because why moderation is mentioned. So people would understand it as concentrating towards the hyperteras, the higher I don't how did you translate avhas?
Is like radiance, maybe. I think I said
Right. Yes,
beams
radiance is
again.
very good. Yes, yes. Higher radiance. In other words, on that reading, without there, it would be natural to uh, read this as narrating some progress from at first Hoseneaftin and Vidocin. So insofar as the beam or the ray uh, gives itself, and then even to the higher, right? So concentrating or somehow, uh, so that the picture would be then we start from periphery and then uh, go into the center of radiance. But this is not this is unlikely because of the Sofrosini mentioned. So the meaning is probably more plausible with, especially, and this is what is indicated by this adversative particle. But on the other hand, uh, in other words, not being moderate and not aspiring, uh, be humbling ourselves, not to aspire to more than what gives itself, right? Given itself, it's what by grace, yes, just relying on the grace. Now, given this, but purely grammatically, what you think now, probably how should we go back to this anatheteon, and probably it what follows shows that it shouldn't be impersonal, right?
Oh, maybe I made this up, but I took this everything after the anatheteon as an accusative absolute, but maybe that doesn't exist.
Oh, no, 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 no. It's accusative absolute exists, but it's not the case here because accusative absolute, right? You can look it up in Smythe. It's yes, that's very peculiar, but it's not because anatheteon, the subject of of this kind of adjective, which corresponds to Latin. I forgot what, but anyway, you got it right, right? So it can be either impersonal or it can follow in accusative.
Oh, so
Uh,
in other words, those who throw their heads back and those who humble themselves must attribute the
right,
and so
right.
forth.
But as usual with the participles, it's left to us to interpret the connection between the action expressed by the participle and the action expressed by um, uh, the main, so to speak, the it's not the verb, a verb, but of course it's implied. The implied verb is estin, anatheteon estin. So, but this meaningful, so to speak, part of the predicate. Yeah, okay, Adam.
Uh, can you explain what the ta is doing after epi? I couldn't figure that out.
Right. What, Richard, do you have any thoughts? No?
I probably just glossed past it. I just took that whole three-word phrase "epita anantes" as meaning like upwards or something, uphill, I think is what I got for anantes.
Yeah, it's good enough, but simply speaking, it's substantivize Anandas, right? So Anandas, you know, what part of speech is it, right? It's
I
uh,
think it's an adjective.
yes, it's an adjective, but it's neuter. Uh, of course, it's well, basically it's neuter. No options here. Yes, and so it's accusative or nominative, but anyway, it's used adverbially here, right? It's kind of above, right? What are the meaning of anandas in uphill? Yeah, above is not my English. That's I use J to correct my English. Yeah, that's what I meant actually. Yes, so well, upward in this case, but anyway, it's an edge, adverbially used neuter adjective, and it is substantivized. So to mm, well, to the area, to the uphill area, to the well, some to the uphill. Does make sense? Okay. So yeah, so the connection between the action that in other words between that we are certainly we or they well somehow the actor is now not to be impersonal but plural, and so either they or we. And so there are two actions that one is prescribed to us that or to them. Well, I think to us is better because one is prescribed that we are to trace it, this superessential knowledge to that superessential unknowing of superessentiality that we're to do. Now, the other two kind of actions which are really, strictly speaking, not prescribed to us, but we are described as doing, namely that we are looking upwards, but only so far as the ray gives itself. And not any old ray, but the ray of the Perhikon Logian, well, roughly speaking, holy oracles or divine oracles, right? And the other action which is described of, we are described as doing, and that we humble ourselves, right? So the connection between the two actions which we are described as doing and the one which is prescribed to us, it's left open for interpretation. It's kind of suspended. Do you have any thoughts? I invite you to. Do we need? Are we prescribed to trace it back to this superessential knowledge because we do that which is described later, or in order to do that, or some other connection, or just simply while we are doing it? That would be somehow less meaningful, I would say, but still would be kind of more open, right? Do you have any thoughts of this about this?
Is the point he's trying to emphasize that the maybe captured in the Thearchica Logia, like these are the things that we're dependent upon for any kind of episteme?
Yes, absolutely.
The...
Right. But how is this connected to tracing back to unknowing? That's a bit of intriguing, I would say, question. So, in other words, this prescription and this description of this, that's what I would like to raise this question. We can leave it suspended, and if you have any thoughts, I would very much welcome them, because that's where interpretation proper begins. We covered the grammar, we covered syntax, we know all the words, but here it's I find it very intriguing kind of construction. Certainly, that we should trace it back. It's easier to relate it to the second action, namely to our humbling ourselves, or contracting before, kind of not pushing to the higher radiance than the one we received by grace. Right? It's actually people who are creative people know this very well. If one pushes further than the inspiration gives, when the work is spoiled, one is to be very humble in a way. Yeah, but yeah.
Could it be that like he's trying to emphasize, well, in the agnosia, it's kind of like the unknowing of our preconceived thoughts that have to be replaced by the thearchica logia.
Right, that's very good point. Yeah, I think that's plausible. Yeah, maybe I would almost think that this tracing back to unknowing somehow, I would say, in this way, humbling ourselves. But so the way to tracing it back, or defer anatheton, like putting it, literally putting it away, kind of. This is the way to humble ourselves. And also, what do you think about why he uses actis here, the ray? Well, the answer is actually one suggestion is in the scholar, but I don't want again to make you read the scholar, but perchance you read, you might have found it there.
Is it reminiscent of Plato's Sun, I guess?
Right, but the question is exactly good you mentioned it. Why is it a ray and not a sun? Right? So, and basically, here in a scolion somewhere, yes, it says here on page 117. So here it explains, here the scholiast, and Zuchla believes it's not Jonas Scythopoulos, but a later scholion. So that's why she put it into. Do you see it on the screen now, the scholion? Yeah, she put it into apparatus, but basically it says that the thought is that the scholiast comments that the thought is that just as we are unable to look at the sun and without damaging our eyes, but only only perhaps at the rays of the sun which come from it. In the same way, we cannot direct our mind to God, but because it would be kind of we cannot. Our cognitive apparatus would be somehow damaged. The implication, but that's of course the scholar's thought. So the Dionysius himself leaves it to us to write our own scholar. Anyway, any questions about this sentence? If not, then Adam, please.
For also, if it is in any way necessary to trust the all-wise and the truest theology, in accordance with the proportion or um
Well, look at the comma here. So yeah, it sounded like you're just okay. Translate as you understand it, and we'll see.
oh the I think I just wanted to change my word order. The divine things are unveiled in accordance with the proportion of the minds of each person, I guess. And they're looked upon by the um by the
What did you make of Tathea?
divine things, I
Okay,
guess.
right.
Yep.
Yes. Uh-huh.
Um,
So divine things are the subject, right?
right. So the
Mm-hmm.
divine things are unveiled
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
in accordance with the proportion of the minds of each, and their epopdeotai, like looked upon,
Mm-hmm.
in the saving justice of the thearchic goodness, um, which is do we want to take the whole thing as a genitive absolute? I think
Yes, that would be
with the
much better.
apotiesta luces at the very end. I think that's why.
Yes.
So with the thearchic goodness sort of separating in its saving justice
Mm-hmm.
unmeasurable from the things subject to measurement, theoprepos in a way fitting for God. Um, the whole Akaraton is a little puzzling. It's like as not separated, not
Uh,
going away or withdrawing.
yes, as Osahorid, it's important. So first of all, what part of speech it is? Just to
Adjective.
just yes, exactly. And what does it qualify? What noun does it qualify?
Um, I guess it would be the goodness.
A goodness, and where is
Um,
goodness? Oh, agathotid. No, well, agathotithos. Uh, I think first of all, what case is agathotithos?
oh, yeah. I guess I can't find an accusative noun that it would go with. That's why I was.
Richard, any help from you?
Could it be ametrion?
Right, exactly.
uh,
That's the only candidate. Yes, and of course, you shouldn't be what to say puzzled by the it's seemingly masculine ending because, of course, you know that some adjectives, in fact,
right,
many of them have only two endings, namely the same masculine ending for both feminine and masculine cases, and ametria, of course, is feminine, but it agrees. So I think you translated ametria by what word again?
unmeasured, unmeasurable,
Right.
or
Then, but
infinite, maybe.
it's not it's not an adjective, so you need a noun. The unmeasurableness or something like
Oh.
uh,
Can you say infinity, maybe?
well, infinity is too saying too much less than it's said in the that's I'll use again as a help. It's my English teacher. I will use uh, our friends LSJ. Yes. Uh, pull it out. Mm. Somehow doesn't it doesn't allow me to okay. With a good ametria, excess. Well, other disproportion is of course not. Well, there is infinity, by the way, but infinity it's aperia. So I think if there are different word, which it's always useful to make a back translation back into from English to the Greek and to see if, immensity. That's Lampe gives immensity. I like immensity. So Lampe sometimes gives much better English renditions for this kind of lexica. Right. So immensity. So then with this achoriton, so immensity, which cannot be well. So how would you translate achoriton?
Not separated.
No. Well, Richard, your
Or not
ideas?
is it not approachable? Is that?
Yeah, it's for achoritus, yeah, something which cannot be encapsulated into a space. Hora is a space. Interestingly, LSJ gives only Greek omichorumenos.
I'm sorry,
Well,
I was thinking of akoristos. I was wrong.
well, not to be contained. Yeah, and as a derivative, not yeah, not to be contained. The derivative incomprehensible, which literally means the same. To comprehend is to put somewhere. Well, but literal, not. Yeah, I don't know what would be more elegant English word for this, but immensity, which immensity, I would say here we have separating in saving justice, separating from the things which are in measure and metro, the immensity hosts as that which cannot be contained, or because it cannot be contained, right? And now, what do you think? Why he calls this justice saving justice?
Well, like the sun that would blind us if we.
Right. So here, of course, Scholiast, I believe, helps us. Well, so this idea is not present in the text, but I think it's very plausible that that's. Oh, I was holding. I'm already, because I opened Zuchlas, so I was on Zuchlas edition. But here we have basically no difference in text. But by the way, it's still, as we're in Zuchlas, it's interesting. This analogia is a citation. I think it's from uh, Romans, Epistle to the Romans, 12:6. It's interesting how he looks with this. Right, here, katatina analogian tis pistios. It's interesting. You see, it's interesting to see the shift, because Paul writes in the proportion of faith. So the it's about we have gifts, charismata, or say prophecy and others according to in proportion to our faith. But here the gift is in a proportion to our mind. But anyway, this interesting, the scholiast says, oh, you see, uh, uh, he calls theology the writings of Paul. So the scholiast brings this to our attention because the scholiast catches this katatin analogian as citation from Paul. And of course, Dionysius, the name the author of this treatise took upon itself is the name of a collaborator and disciple of Paul. So that makes perfect sense according to the scenario, so to speak, of behind it. That okay, Adam?
Oh, so when he refers to, or so, frequently he mentions these like logia, which I think Leela translates oracles, and I think we mentioned those were like the biblical texts. Would the letters of Paul be included in that, or does he mean like I guess the Old Testament?
Well, that's a very good question. We need to see. It's possible that let's keep this in mind, and that's excellent question. He might be distinguishing between this logia, or how he calls them before. Yeah, say theorchiki logia, right? So therchikon logion, right? That might refer to scripture because for the in the beginning the scripture was only the what we call Old Testament, because the writings which we now call New Testament were not considered scriptures until pretty late. So and we may wonder whether this author plays it consistently with the knowledge of this, and then he might refer indeed to these oracles. He might identify with the so-called Old Testament scriptures and theology with the New Testament, for instance. All right. Yes, and look, there's a nice play on words. Apodiastelusis, diastel, that's systelomenus, and apodiastelusis. That's kind of resonates. Of course, it's just a playful use of words, but I would say so we are humbled, we are systelomenus, and this this goodness is apodiasteli. Okay, so Adam, would you continue, please?
Or just as the ungraspable and unobservable, or just as the intellectual things, Tanaita, are ungraspable and unobservable by the sensory capacities, and the things that are, I guess, simple and unmolded are ungraspable by things in a mold or in a cast.
Mm-hmm.
And and the I guess intangible and formlessness of the bodiless or the incorporeal is also not graspable by those things which have been shaped in accordance with the forms of bodies. In the same way, the
No, kataton avtontis alithias logon.
oh, sorry, in accordance with the same argument of truth, the same account of truth, the beyond being infinity lies beyond substances or beings, and the oneness beyond mind lies beyond the minds.
Right, right. So yes, of course, the subtle, not distinctions, but variations of which is difficult to reproduce in English, like aschimatistos and atipota. But yeah, but I think we understand the meaning here. Mm. Interesting thing, you translate tis as fetis by as the organ of senses, right? Or how did you translate?
Well, I guess I think it should mean something like something perceived, right? Ta esteta or
Yes, exactly.
but I guess I wanted it to because he's saying that they're not graspable, so I think I wanted it to. I wasn't sure. I guess I'd ask you, like, does the meaning shift here? And
Yeah, here it's a little bit not exactly difficult, but strictly speaking, it might if taken literally, it might puzzle one because like I think it's assumed that some people in some state have capacity of communion with the divine, but of course, as people, they are perceivable by the senses. So, but even not with even living aside the divine. So the tanoita, say the ideas or concepts. Of course, we understand ideas and concepts, but we are like you and I. We have bodies, and we are perceivable by the senses. So, what does he mean exactly? And probably he means exactly as you said. And this is actually explanation in a scholium which relates to this passage, is that by sense perceivable, he means the organ, by sense perceivable organs, right? Uh, so the concepts are and cannot be grasped by sense perceivable organs like eyes, ears, etc. And that's the meaning. Mutatis mutandis applies to what follows in this passage. Any questions? By the way, I might am I asking you in order? So the previous one was translated by Richard, right? So I'm not. Sometimes I may be confused, but right. So okay. So now, Richard, your turn.
Sure. For the one above
I'm
thought.
sorry. Maybe would you please read first?
Sure. Yeah. Kai passais dianoiais adianoeton estinta huper dianoion hen. Areton de logo pante ta huper logon agathon. Henas henapoios hapaces henados, kai huperusios usia, kai nous anoetas, kai logos aretos, alogia, kai anoesia, kai anonymia, katameden tononton usa, kai aition men tu enai passen, auta de me on, hos passes susias epecena kai hos an aute per heautes curios kai epistetos apophainoito.
Right, right.
So also the one above thought is unthinkable to all thoughts. Is that right?
Yes, you're right. Yes.
And the the unspoken good above every word, the unspoken good which is above, wait, hold on. The good which is above logos is unspoken in every account.
Unspeakable.
Unspeakable in any account is the goodness which is above accounts, which is above logos.
Yeah, above speech, right. Either of the two. So there's Rema, Logos here. Okay, that's
Nas apoyos apaces I feel like I'm kind of losing the thread here, but the one making one of every unit and the being above being and the mindless mind and the unspoken word speechlessness and lack of and anoesia, like I don't know, mindlessness
right.
and namelessness which exists according to nothing of those things that exist and is the cause of being to all, although itself not being, since it is above all being, and since it itself concerning itself rightly and epistemic, I don't know, epistato, like a
With it's
with knowledge.
yeah, with knowledge, with ground, with the reason maybe. Again, let's see.
It would be manifest or apophenoito, like be shown.
Right, but what do you make of os?
Look.
Because that's important here.
I don't know what to make of. You mean the second one with hos an alta per heautu?
Right. Yes. Horse. Yeah. I think you said something.
So I said
But both of them, both horse. So
the first one I said since it is above all being, I think is how I did the first host, or because, or as being above all being.
right. That's good. But the second os, how do you translate?
Well, it's got an on and it's got an optative, so um is it like is it a final clause? Is it a result clause?
Yeah, well, Adam, any thoughts?
So that it might lordly, or not lordly, but properly and epistemically present itself.
No, I think at least my understanding is that, that it as as it itself might, with knowledge and in proper sense, curious about itself, might declare about itself. So, in other words, it introduces direct speech, so to speak, so to say, but in with potential clause. So this potential clause is, I think it's just potential clause, but so it's the so it might what precedes this is the reference of this declaration. So since it's so in other words, I think it's somewhat different meaning of these two O's. The first is just as you said, since or because, but the second refers to this clause, passus usiese pecina, and so the end of the sentence is the claim that not only it's the case that it is beyond every essence, but even it itself might, with knowledge and properly declare this about itself, right? So this as isn't the question, as I said, or as he said. So, right? So do you see my meaning? Oh,
I think so.
So in other words, it adds another twist. So not only it is the fact, not only I, the Dionysius narrators, tell you this, but it itself, the divinity, or what is named by all these names, this this that to which I ascribed all these names and about which I have made all these statements, it itself would or could declare this about itself. So this, I think, is the meaning of the second os, as it would itself would declare about it.
Yep.
Of course, it's now as we were reading it, I was thinking all this, how grammatically, syntactically, all this nominative cases, how do they fit it? Apparently, they are just in opposition to the main so the verb is hyperkite, right? And then the subject, hyperusius aperia, and then it's expanded. So this subject is kind of expanded with coordinate sequence of coordinate k, k. Oh no, sorry. Sorry, no. There's another verb, the esti. So first it's hyperkete. So then katon known implied again hyperkete, and the subject is hypernoon and notice. Then verb is esti. The passes the Aeneas the anoetonesti esti. And then I think then esti is implied every ariton esti the logo pandi to hyperlogon agathon. And then after agathon, then I think happens that it's in opposition agathon or enas and enopios apasses and others. So after agathon goes the expansion. These expressions between commas are in opposition to hyperlogon agathon. That's now how I see it. Yes, and then and as such it goes up to here. Then again, after the me on, well, implied estin, but of course to say me on estin would be a little bit awkward. So he takes a chance to omit estin, which now you may now it's on us what to do with it. So he, well, to be non-being is well, but here we come to this his kind of strategies of his discourse. So he takes advantage of that Greek allows one to have estin implicit. So after the after the me on, right? So clearly, the force of that st, which we saw here, right? I cannot now find it quickly, but we saw it, right? Where is it?
It's in the fourth line up from the bottom.
Yes, here, thank you, st. Yeah. So the force of this st, it's implied verb, in other words, with all these coordinate members up to here, but then there's a change of subject. The subject becomes this pronoun after the me on. Well, what? Estin, okay. And so it's possibly right. Because or on as in the capacity of being or as being as or right. Yes. Okay, so we already saw how this works. Anyway, so apophane, I brought to attention, I looked into Lila's translation. He translate this up would deny about itself, which is not right because you can double check. So this form, because he connected to apophatic theology, I think he was carried away a little bit because grammatically it wouldn't work. Although in essence it's right, because that was what preceded is full of this alpha privativums of denials, right? So logos aretos, alogia, anoisia, etc., etc. So there was a string of denials. So
It looks like the apparatus has some manuscripts have apophasoi.
oh, right. But ironically, Lila himself didn't go with that. So that's his edition and his translation. So, but so Zuchla has apophanita. So and all editors before Lila, I think, as far as I know, had this. So maybe it was his last minute decision, and I don't know. Yeah, yeah, but thank you for bringing this to attention. Okay, we're out of time, and did I want to say anything else? All right, any questions about this? If not, then see you next week.
Oh, have a good week. Thank you.
You too.
Bye
You too.
all.
Thank you. Thank you.